This podcast is about informing and inspiring our listeners, introducing people to new concepts, products, ideas, and stories. It's the storytelling that I love. Today, I'm introducing you to Amy. Amy, however, isn't a person. She's actually an acronym. Amy stands for anxiety, mood, irritability, and energy. She is a new nutritional neuroscience supplement that has been in development for quite some time, but whose story and whose background is really quite personal and impressive. So wait, what exactly is nutritional neuroscience? I had to look this up, but they had the definition. Where food science and neuroscience meet. It's really the study of how carbohydrates, proteins, fats, nutritional supplements, vitamins, minerals, additives, and the list could go on, can alter brain chemistry, cognition, and behavior. So this is going to be an interesting topic as I welcome you to Living Your Life with Lianne Laing, the podcast brought to you by Extension Marketing. And of course, for more information, you can always head to extensionmarketing.com. So joining us in studio, Alysen Clark, who is the founder, the co-founder, and CEO of Staterra. So great to have you here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
And I have to say thank you for coming in, because we have a baby on the other side.
Yes,
on the other side of the studio.
Yes, we have my 5-month-old, so let's hope he stays asleep.
We'll hope so. If you hear a little screaming in the background, we'll know what's happening. Yeah. It's okay.
Grandpa's on duty.
Yes, and you and Grandpa have quite the story.
Yes, we do.
Oh my goodness.
We do. So my dad is actually my business partner. Mm-hmm. We founded Staterra, which is the name of the Nutritional Neuroscience research company. We founded that 4 years ago. Actually, I just got my LinkedIn notification. Everyone's wishing me like happy work anniversary. Yeah. And yes, we started it 4 years ago. It actually got its start as a production company within nutritional products, so natural health products. So that deals in protein powders, vitamins, minerals. We got our start, as I said, on the production side of things. So we were actually creating products for other natural health companies and clinics within the Ottawa area.
Yeah, you were doing a lot of this work for others, and then this development of what essentially has become your own products kind of blossomed from there.
Yes.
And I love it because I was looking at your background, and there's a ton of science, nutrition. Like, I mean, I couldn't even understand half the words that were in your, your university background in education.
Yeah. I'm a really big nerd.
Which you want when people are developing products. I want to know that you were geeked out nerd and you know your stuff.
Yeah. So I did my undergraduate degree in biology. And then that was down in Southern Ontario. And then I came back up to Ottawa, where I did my master's degree in a program called cellular molecular medicine. So within that research,
what is that?
It's a very broad encompassing topic, actually. So the lab that I was doing my research in was primarily neuroscience focused. And we focused a lot on the metabolism of neurons and neuronal stem cells in your brain. So that's where my neuroscience background comes from. Once I completed my master's, I got really lucky, and my supervisor from my master's actually hired me on as a research technician in her lab. And from there, I moved up to become the senior research tech fairly quickly. It was a really, really great experience working in that. It was still fundamental research, but that very borderline medical pharmaceutical realm, because you always need to have your eye on the prize as far as how is this a druggable target that you're looking at? How is this something that you could potentially manipulate to help people? So I was actually working in the lab at the time when the opportunity to found Staterra with my dad came up.
Yeah, it's interesting when your dad picks you up to take you out for lunch and says, "Hey, sweetie, I have an idea for a company."
Yes.
Was this something that as a child or around the family dinner table, these were topics you talked about? Like, where did the passion and the interest for this start?
My dad is what you would say, I guess, consider a serial entrepreneur. So he has owned businesses his entire life. Funny enough, it had never really been a passion of mine. I remember this hilarious conversation I had with my husband around the time we got engaged, and I looked him dead in the eye and I said, "And the one promise you have to make me is that you will never own a business. Like, that is not the life that I want." And lo and behold, 5 years later, I'm like, "Hey, honey,
guess what? We're gonna own a business."
Yeah, exactly. So I remember it so clearly. It was in the middle of the summer, and I start getting texts from my dad out of the blue, like, "Allie, I want to pick you up for lunch. We're gonna go for lunch. It's gonna be so nice. We should hang out. Haven't had time to chat in a while." And I'm kind of thinking, like, okay, what's going on? So he pulls up in the car. I get in, and he's literally like glowing, and he is so excited. He just looks at me. He says, "Allie, we're starting a business." And I just looked at him and I said, I don't think so, but tell me what it's all about.
Are you paying for lunch?
Yeah, exactly.
Where are we going for lunch?
Yeah, pretty much. And then that was midsummer, and by October we had the company incorporated, and by the following March we had renoed the space and we're in production. So
it's interesting to see how this came about, because it wasn't something as a child, like, did you take, like, where was the interest in this? That was the science base that you chose to go down in university. Like, was this something active, supplements, things that you took or understood as a child growing up?
Yeah. So, I mean, as a child, we didn't necessarily take a lot of supplements. My mom was very, very into us taking our cod liver oil. We had to take cod liver oil every day, and then Flintstones vitamins. But nothing really intense. Honestly, I think a lot of it came from my research background and more my understanding of, or my interest in the body and how it works. And then I had a real interest in natural alternatives and natural products and how those could be used to alter your body.
Where did that interest come from? Was it something that you felt you needed, or that you were always looking for, or were you always in tune with how your body and mind were functioning together?
Yeah, so I know from my from a mental health perspective, I've struggled with anxiety for as long as I can remember. I was officially, I guess, given a name for it when I was in high school, and I was told that I had generalized anxiety disorder and panic attacks. At the time, I believe I've been prescribed medication on a couple different times, but it just wasn't a very good fit for me. And so my own mental health was something that I very much always managed, a lot with physical activity, a lot with diet, that type of thing. So my interest in natural health products actually began more from that fitness perspective, because I was working out and I found running was a really, really important outlet for me just from a mental perspective.
Well, they say that, right? And a lot of times you talk with people as to how they deal with certain life circumstances. Yes. And a lot of the times with anxiety or depression, it's like, get outside, go for a run, and the energy and the endorphins, it helps kickstart it. And there's a reason. I mean, I know there's a science behind it, right? But this was something that even as a child you understood. Like, can I ask, like, what was happening as, in middle school and into high school that you started to feel like, was there an anxiety of going to class or?
So as long as I can remember, for someone that was in school for so long, my earliest memories of school, I did not like at all. I'd be very sick before school in the mornings, just not feeling well. I also remember when I was a child, I went through it sounds so weird now because you're a kid, right? But I went through this terrible phase where I had this huge fear of getting food poisoning or throwing up, which I now know is actually a fairly common disorder. And so I went through a phase where I actually didn't want to go to sleep because in my childhood brain, oftentimes, you have food poisoning or the flu, you wake up in the night. And so I had this weird logic, if I don't go to sleep, I won't wake up and be sick. And so I was having terrible insomnia. I remember my parents actually got me, I had this CD player that I'd listen to book on tapes, right? Keep your mind.
They try occupied. Everything.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. And that was one of my earliest clear memories of anxiety. At the time, of course, I didn't know what it was. This was a completely logical approach to me, right? Don't sleep, won't get sick. And then moving, as I got older, moving into high school, I was homeschooled for a while when I was younger. And so then there was a transition back into high school, which is a completely different social environment.
So you're homeschooled prior to high school?
Yes.
High school is your first integration?
So oh
my God.
I had done elementary school kind of on and off.
Okay.
And then I had lived always down in Southern Ontario and my family moved up to Ottawa and I wanted to make friends. So I was going to go back to high school. And so I entered this world that was just complete shell shock to me. I had no idea what was going on. I didn't swear. I didn't do anything. I remember there was this thing for a while when I was just began high school. My friends were always trying to get me to swear. I was like, no, I don't say bad words. That kind of thing. I was totally shell shocked. So that was obviously, again, quite stressful. And for my first couple years of school, I ended up missing a lot of school because I had so much anxiety about going to class. I would have this feeling of being stuck in class and not being able to go home and not being able to leave. I would feel very trapped and I would panic and then that would lead to a panic attack. So it was around that time that I started going to the doctor more and trying to figure out what was going on.
Looking back now and understanding the science and the nutrition and what the body can take in to help this, are you fascinated by it?
Yeah, I'm absolutely fascinated by your mind and your emotions and your perception, right? Because your perception is your reality, and how things can go so wrong in your brain and you don't really have any control over it, right? But then it's finding that way to regain that control and almost rebalance or reset or find perspective. So
I really wanted to put a lot of emphasis on to Amy today, just because I find it fascinating. I find how you come about creating these products individualized for people based on their questionnaire, based on understanding who they are. So I really want to hit on that. How did then, I know you have Staterra, and this was the company, 4 years ago when Dad says, okay, we're going out for lunch and I have this great idea. What was the development? Like, how did all of this come about? Because it's almost by accident in a way. Yeah. Because you were working on so many other things.
Yeah. So it sounds really cliche, and I almost hate to say it, but it did come about very organically. So at the time we started the company, as I said, I was very into fitness. I was working out all the time. And so our company began to take a turn towards fitness supplements. But again, sort of with this.
Was it to look a certain way? Was it for performance based?
For me, it was both. And actually, in hindsight, looking back, I would say my fitness at the time was probably not in the healthiest realm. I think it was almost
excessive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Very much into the appearance, into like harder, faster, longer. And so at the time, fitness supplements seemed like a great thing. I can work out harder. I can work out more. But we always had this emphasis on something being good for your whole body, because there are a lot of fitness supplements that can help you lift more, but down the line that might not be very good for your adrenals, that type of thing. So we had this whole body approach and this concept that you will be your most fit in a biological sense if all your systems in your body are working well together. And so that led into this personalized fitness supplement program where we had a questionnaire that we were looking at a whole range of health areas. So we were looking at joint health, we were looking at digestive health, mood and cognition was a part of it. We were taking into account someone's fitness goals. So were they training for a run? Were they trying to put on mass? That type of thing. So
who came up with the questionnaire?
It was with our registered nutritionist.
Okay.
And so she had a lot of the background as far as doing getting input from people and creating an output that way. So that's where the base of the questionnaire came from. Now, obviously, it's been tailored and retailored for our specifics. But going back to the fitness supplements, we had this fitness supplement program. It was going to be great. Obviously, I'm working out all the time, so I'm going to be on it. And naturally in my questionnaire, of course, mood and cognition and anxiety, all that stuff comes up. So I'm on this supplement. Things are going great, working out all the time. And I've probably been on it for a month, maybe a month and a half. And I was panicked about something. And so I'm on the phone with someone, I'm messaging, I'm sending emails like crazy. I can't even remember what it was I was panicked about. And I get this little text message on my phone from my head of research, who actually has a neuroscience and a psychology background. She sends me this message. She says, "Alysen, have you been taking your supplements?" And I was like, no, like I've forgotten. I'm obviously really busy right now. I've emailed you 6 things that I need. Why are you messaging me about this? And she sends one back. She says, "You need to take them. You're a lot better when you're taking them." And so
in terms of your demeanor, your personality.
Yeah, I guess in terms of being a boss.
That's a really good coworker right there.
I know.
So Alysen, did you take your, because how many times do we want to say that to people who we know are on meds going, did you forget to take your meds today? And it wasn't like you were on these meds, right? It was this,
it was this fitness supplement. Okay. And in hindsight, good on her. And I'm really lucky because her and I had done our graduate school together. So we were friends as well. So we did have that close a relationship. Okay. So she was.
Yes. For her to be able to say, I can tell that you haven't taken them.
Yes. And she very much calls things like it is anyway, obviously. But when she first told me this, I was kind of like, you're way off base. You just get me what I need. And so naturally I turned to my husband to say, can you believe that she just said this to me? And he just backed her 100%. He just looked at me and said, I've noticed a real difference. I do think that you're a lot better when you take them. You seem to just manage things better. And so from that point, I stopped calling people on it, and I made sure that I took them every day. And then eventually it probably took me another 3 or 4 weeks before I started to notice a difference when I wasn't taking them. Because again, the scientist in me is like, how many days can I push it? Like, oh, if I miss one day.
Are you grateful for doing that though? Because
yes,
as the science background to say, okay, let's be a test subject here.
Yeah.
And that other people had noticed, but you needed to be able to find that difference.
Yes. And so I think I kind of needed to find that limit myself. And I think to a certain extent, at least my personality, I tend to fight against things. And so it's maybe a weird backwards way to look at it, but I kind of think, oh, this supplement is helping me. Like, well, maybe I don't really need it. And so then I would stop it. It was like, oh, it can't be the supplement. It's all these other things that I'm doing. It's not this. And so I would stop it and then push kind of the number of days. And then sure enough, my husband or someone would start to say, have you been taking it? Because I'd always obviously not take it in secret.
I find it fascinating. I do. I see this world is fascinating to me, right?
Yeah.
And that you can understand the mind and the body and how certain additions to your into the system is great, and taking out the other things.
Yeah.
When you realize that there's this mental health component to these supplements that were meant for physical training.
Yeah.
Is that when it kind of clicks a little bit to say exactly how far can we push this product?
Yeah. So at that point, I really started realizing something was going on. And then we went back and started to look at our fitness clients and, okay, who is actually buying this product and who is ordering it repeatedly? And we went back and looked, and the people that were ordering it repeatedly were all women, and they were all getting mood support. Most of them were also getting digestive and hormonal support. And that's when we really realized, like, okay, there's something going on here that we hadn't anticipated. And this is really resonating with this group. So we need to start to look into this a bit more.
How do you know this? Is there a questionnaire? Like, how do you know, looking back on the clients who are our regular clients?
Yes.
How do you figure out that that's the reason for their purchase power?
Yep. It was from their questionnaires as well as the formulas that we had generated for them.
So there's different formulas.
Yes. So every formula is tailored to the individual. And so based on their questionnaire, what areas come up that they need more support for, we would add specific ingredients to provide that support. And so we went back and it was just like, oh my gosh, their formulas, a lot of them were very similar. At least from an ingredient perspective, the dosages were different depending on how, like if someone scored really, really poorly in one area versus another. But a lot of the key ingredients that we were using were similar across these people. And then from questionnaire to questionnaire, so as they reordered, they're filling out more questionnaires, we're seeing progress. We're actually seeing self-reported that they were having a decrease in anxious feelings. Overall, they were scoring that their mood was higher. Overall, they were scoring that their energy levels were higher. So that when we went through and actually compiled all of that was pretty eye-opening for us, because it was eye-opening, and at the same time, we were kind of thinking, oh man, we're in entirely the wrong area. This is fitness supplements right now.
Right. And that sometimes is the biggest obstacle for a business, is when they realize that they have a product, but their demographic or where they had intended on being used is completely different than where they set out for. Can I ask then, so you go to the website and then, so the first step is really this questionnaire.
Yes.
So how much went into having the right questions and touching on the right areas?
Yeah. So the questionnaire itself, so this fitness program was I think we started that about 3 years ago. And the questionnaire has really been evolving since then. So we've removed all of the questions that have to do with what are your fitness goals? How is your joint health? That type of thing. As we've gotten more into the research behind mental health and diet and nutrition, obviously the microbiome plays a huge role.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there because I know a lot of my listeners are familiar with this.
Yes.
I've had nutritionists on, I've had naturopathic doctors, but for those that might be new and listening, I do want them to understand what you're saying and so that they have a better understanding. So when you talk about this, the microbiomes, I mean, I know we're going to be talking gut health, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So essentially the microbiome is this entire ecosystem, if you will, of bacteria that live in your intestinal tract. There are thousands and thousands of strains of them. Your diet alters them. So depending on what you eat, you actually skew your microbiome. So if you eat a lot of carbohydrates and sugary foods, you're naturally going to be feeding the bacteria that eat carbohydrates and sugar. If you tend to eat a lot of leafy greens, you're going to have bacteria that are involved in the breakdown of those foods instead. So you can actually skew your microbiome. And more recently, there's been information that your gut microbiome is actually like a fingerprint. It's very unique to you. And a lot of the mental health, depression research is now starting to look at this, because aside from your brain, your intestinal tract actually has the most neurons anywhere in your body. It's actually able to respond to a lot of the same chemicals that act as neurotransmitters in your brain are acting as signaling molecules within your digestive tract. And so there's definitely some kind of link there. And so there more recently has been a lot of research investigating, okay, so what does the microbiome of someone who's generally happy look like compared to someone who is struggling with depression? So that's what your microbiome is.
Right. And so many ailments, a lot of the times it comes back to gut health,
Yeah,
right? And people are like scratching their heads, but more and more people are starting to catch on to it. Like the gut health is really triggering so much more in the system.
Yeah, it's so critical. And digestive health and gut health and this microbiome has been linked to mental health. It's been linked to cardiovascular health. Right now, everything is in the gut, it seems. So
you have this. So now I'll go back.
Yes,
Thank you for going off track a little bit. Okay, so then you're talking about this questionnaire.
Yes.
Okay.
So because of that, we've added, we always had some digestive health questions in there. We've also added a lot.
So digestive health questions, like how often are you having a bowel movement? How often, like what would those questions be like?
So how often do you experience constipation? How often do you experience diarrhea? Do you experience bloating after eating? Things along that line. We also ask a lot about inflammatory foods, because there's now links between inflammation and the microbiome. There's potential links between inflammation and mental wellness. Those are a little bit more tenuous at this point, but a lot of the research tends to be going that way. So we're trying to get an overall view of what do you eat? How well is your body handling what you eat? And how could that be impacting your mental wellness state? So in addition to digestive health and food questions and inflammatory questions, we also ask questions about hormonal status. So do you struggle a lot with PMS? Do you find that you're moody? Do you find that you're irritable? Do you find that you experience a lot of migraines? We ask about hormonal therapies that you could be on. And then from a mental and cognitive perspective, we ask about feelings of anxiousness, feelings of panic. We have a couple different questions that we ask that would link more to feeling down or depressive like symptoms, that type of thing.
Do you allow people to try to understand or differentiate between panicked or anxious? You know, people are filling out these questions and they, you as in middle school kind of figured out that there's something going on. But for people to differentiate, am I sad? Am I anxious?
So we tend to do a fair bit of asking the same question in a couple different ways, because the thing that's really interesting about having a questionnaire is that I'll touch back on perception, because essentially it might not actually be how the person is, it is how they perceive themselves to be. And so another piece of our questionnaire that we've now added is actually an impact scale. So we're asking people, okay, you've just given us how you believe your mental wellness state is. How often is this impacting your life? So how many days are you unable to go to work? How many days is this impacting in a month? Is this impacting your recreational activities? How often do you think this impacts your personal life? Because that gives us a little bit more of a measure, because oftentimes too, it depends on the mood the person is in when they fill out the questionnaire. If you have someone that's had a terrible day, they're going to say that they have felt anxious the entire month. They haven't been able to do anything, when oftentimes it could be a bad day. Right. And so to get around that or to mitigate that, we do often ask the same question different ways. We will come out and ask, and it's interesting when you look at the data, because we'll go back and see that oftentimes a lot of people will score highly on the measures or like the symptoms of feeling down or blue. But when you full out ask someone, do you think you feel depressed? The answer is always no. But they'll often say their struggle to get out of bed in the morning. They felt down or blue for many days in the previous week, that type of thing. So it's pretty interesting. Our questionnaire itself has evolved a lot.
How long would someone need to sit down and do it and be honest and truthful so that they're getting the best product back?
Yeah, I would say, again, it depends on the person. And I think it depends also how in tune with their bodies and their own mental state they are at the time. About 10 minutes would probably be average. But that being said, if you haven't really sat down and thought, how am I feeling? Then it could easily take you 20 or 25 minutes, because the hope would be that each question you're going to sit down and really, really think, okay, in the past month, the past 30 days, how have I been feeling, right? You really need to take stock with yourself. So
when you have younger people doing this, because I know that there's a big outreach for youth, like a younger audience with this, do you suggest them having a parent, or do you have...
So generally for us, we really, really try to skew towards people who are older. There's a couple reasons for that. There is definitely a huge need within the teenage population. In our case, teenagers' brains aren't fully developed.
This podcast is brought to you by Extension Marketing. They are a new breed of marketing agency that acts as your virtual marketing department, designing and implementing cost-effective marketing strategies that will grow your business. I can speak to this personally, as I've been using the Extension Marketing team to help me launch and grow my business. Founder Pat Whalen has been a lifesaver for me, a genuine coach guiding me along the way into uncharted territory. Tell them you're a friend of the show and receive a free 1-hour consultation. Check them out at extensionmarketing.com.
That's just a matter of fact. And so we don't want to be in there giving specific ingredients to try and alter hormonal levels or alter neurotransmitter levels, because their hormones are all over the place because they're developing.
Okay. So this is really interesting to know. So where did you kind of set, okay, this is the age, these are the core requirements for this?
Yeah. So in general, 18 years or older. We do have special situations. If we do have a parent reach out to us with their kid, with their child, saying they're really struggling, is there something you can do? Then we will work with them. They usually aren't streamed into our regular program, if that makes sense. So there's a lot more back and forth with the parent and the child to kind of make sure. We often start things very, very slowly, get them going on some very basic things that can help, like an omega-3 fish oil is great. A magnesium supplement oftentimes can work wonders. And those are very small changes that someone can make to their diet to help.
So 18 and over is more the target demo.
Yeah.
Brain development is at a different level.
Yeah, I mean, it still continues usually till about 21 is when a lot of that stuff finalizes. But
and when we talk about the actual product itself,
yes,
I haven't even mentioned it. Like people in their heads could be thinking, okay, it's this pill, it's
magic
a liquid.
Pill, yeah,
exactly what is it?
So it's a powder. And we encourage people to take it as like a shake or put it in a smoothie. It's a protein base. And so it's taste-wise, I would say, is similar to a protein powder. It's not quite as delicious because we don't use the artificial flavors and the artificial sweeteners. And so when you're hemmed into doing something that's natural flavoring and natural sweeteners, it's a little bit more of a challenge. And then within this protein powder base, we use various amino acids are a really big one. We also use a few different herbal ingredients or nutraceutical ingredients, vitamins and minerals.
So that's what is thrown into this.
Yeah.
But every powder is individualized.
Yes. And so within the powder, what amino acids we use, the dosage that we use, what vitamins and minerals and the dosage, the herbals and the dosage, that is all a result of what we see on their questionnaire.
So who's doing all of this? Like, do I see like like there's a couple people in the back room like with measuring cups going type A is this much, and
so the actual questionnaire portion. So we do work with registered nutritional practitioners, and so they are the ones that are going over the questionnaires, scoring them. Coming up with the formulation, that type of thing. We do have a couple checks. So each formula is looked at by two people. The way the system that we have right now is we have one person go through the questionnaire and generate what's considered more like a base formula. So this is the automatic base. And then the second check, someone goes through and goes through the questionnaire with a more fine-tooth comb to pick out any of the intricacies, because oftentimes just because someone scores one way isn't necessarily the whole picture. There at that point is frequently a little bit of back and forth with the client themselves to kind of say, okay, hey, you mentioned you mentioned a little bit of this. Can you elaborate on that more? Or we have here that you're taking these medications. We need the dosages, the brands, that kind of stuff. And so then the formula is generated. And then we actually have a facility out in Stittsville, way out in the west end of town. And that's where we produce all of the products. Okay.
So it was interesting because there was one point too that I saw there were teas, like there was, like, I don't know why I thought that it's not, it's all based in a protein powder. Okay.
Yes, it's all powder based. It's possible, I know, depending on the formula, there could be like a green tea extract in it. I think right now we aren't using that one as much. That was more for the fitness side of things. If you came across like a tea ingredient, it could have been that. But it is all a protein powder base.
Okay. So individualized and taken in shakes.
Yes.
And what has the response been then from people who have over the last, it's fully in development with this questionnaire for how long?
Since September was when we've really started to roll out the formalized program.
And what has the response been?
It's been pretty good. It's been pretty good. Again, I'm a scientist, so like I'm always more, I guess, on the cautious side of things, always like cautiously optimistic. We have people that are on it and reordering, and we're getting a lot of really positive feedback from it. So that's good. At this point, we're really just trying to get the message out there that this is available for people.
There was a program, and I know, I think in talking with your dad, like reaching out to mental health practitioners, the Royal Ottawa Hospital.
Yeah.
What was the connection there, and that you want to be able to have these relationships with people that are dealing with patients right now?
Yeah. So with the Royal Ottawa, we're actually speaking with a researcher who was affiliated with there as well as Ottawa U, because what we're trying to do, so now we have this formalized program and we think it's working really well. We're getting a lot of great feedback, but I want to actually test it. So we're in the process of pulling together what has now grown into a very large controlled research study. So at this point, we're looking to foster collaborations with different academic institutions, because when you're working with academia, it's really nice because they hold you to a higher science standard than if you were to just go it alone, so to speak.
And as a science background, you appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, not to say that industry science isn't good. Industry science is great and it has its place. But I grew up in academia. And so to me, academia is where the real good research happens. And it's non-biased because there's no horse in that race, so to speak, right? You're just trying to add to the knowledge pool. And that's something that just personally I'm very passionate about, that if we are onto something and it's great and it works, I want that to be part of the knowledge pool. Even if we're able to get this study done, no one has ever studied something that's customized to the individual before. So even coming up with a rigorous scientific method to test that, if we're able to do that and test that, that is going to push research itself forward, because then another research can come along and say, hey, someone has done this. And so now maybe I can use that protocol and change it a little bit and test something in a personalized fashion as well. It's about starting to get that accepted.
So now that you have this, so between Royal Ottawa, between the academic studies, how will this come together? Is it something that they would try and use with their own patients? How do you see this happening?
No. So at this point, we don't have a formal collaboration. So I'll come right out and say that we do have a researcher that is very interested in working with us. So her specialty is studying the microbiome and how that links to different mental health issues. So she is very interested in collaborating and working with us. So what it would look like we're still trying to work out all the details as far as how this would actually look, because we are bringing together, we're trying to bring together a whole bunch of people and a whole bunch of institutions that don't work together. So
it's a challenge.
Yeah. So right off the bat, being in natural health products and trying to work within mental health or mental wellness right off the bat, that is not very accepted. And so trying to get respected researchers on board can be difficult. So we have one, so that's good. And so from there, it's trying to figure out the best way to push the study forward that is going to really keep it within that higher rigor of science.
So what are you hoping to see with this? I mean, it was years of development, years of changing the formula and the products and the questionnaires to really understand who is benefiting truly from this product. Where do you hope to see this go?
From a research perspective or from a business perspective?
Let's go with both. I mean, I think they both go hand in hand.
Yes. I would love to do to see the formal controlled trial go forward. Obviously, you always hope for positive results. Even if we don't get positive results in a controlled setting, we are going to have a ton of information from it. So I really hope, honestly, that the product gets big enough, the science is strong enough to back it, that people trust it and people are willing to try it as an option. This is definitely not an option for everybody. But I really feel within women's mental health in particular, there aren't enough options for people. Like right now, if you're told you have generalized anxiety disorder, like, great.
What do you do with
that? Go
that?
live your life. Yeah, exactly. There are definitely medications you can take, and a lot of people respond really, really well to them, and a lot of people don't. And so if you're one of those people that has been given a diagnosis and tried medications and they're not working, or you don't like them, or you find that the medication is working to a certain degree, but now you have side effects from it, there's not a whole lot of other options that you can take. You can do cognitive behavioral therapy for sure, and that is a great help. I know I've done a lot of it. But I would love for this to, I guess, get mainstream acceptance enough that people know it's just another option for someone to take.
They're popping the powder into their protein shakes anyway.
Yes.
Why not add the things that are going to enhance a positive mental state and feeling?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the whole thing, is that just if it's someone that's out there and they're struggling, there's always something else you can try, right? Like I'm very much a fixer, right? But it's just keep trying things until you find something that works. And I would love for this to become part of that option pool that's out there.
So if it's all coming down to mental, like we're saying mental health, but it's behavior, feeling, depression, anxiety.
Yeah.
But I mean, I know in there that you had like how's your menstrual cycle, right? Like, are we PMSing really bad, or are we just trying to alleviate, really bad cramping?
Yeah.
Like there's so many different triggers as to, women are so complicated.
Yes, we are.
Like we're complicated creatures, right?
Yes.
And we are so uniquely different that we're all reacting to these different medicines or different medications or different supplements very differently.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that is also very unique about the product and about the research, again, is that we have, I call them 3 pillars for lack of a better term. But we have this 3-pillared approach, and it's that your mental wellness isn't just in your head. Your entire body is going to play into that. So if your hormones are all going crazy, you're not going to feel great. I'm sure many of us have experienced that with PMS or postpartum or when you're pregnant. Your hormones go wild and you're not feeling great. Again, the gut microbiome can all feed into that. So we really look at it as these three key areas. So your brain health, or your neuronal health, I guess, your neural health, your hormonal health, and your digestive health. And how do those three pieces come together to affect your mental wellness overall?
And then it comes into effect AMY. So let's break down the AMY part, right?
Yes.
So A was for anxiety.
Yes. And anxiety symptoms. The M is for mood balance or mood imbalance. I is for irritability, because we see a lot of women tend to struggle. Their anxiety, or if they're feeling a little bit down, that can often come out in irritability, right? Like you're stressed out, so you just don't have time for your kid that just won't put on their shoes, right? That type of thing. And then E is for energy levels, because it's exhausting. And a lot of women feel they need that energy boost to just keep going.
Would the end result maybe be that you're able to get the gut health back on track and back feeling good, and that maybe the success is that eventually a woman or somebody can get off of this product?
Yes.
While you're in a business, business mind frame.
Yes.
At the end of the day, with your background and the science behind it, that you would hope that you would rebalance somebody, that they could wean themselves off of it eventually.
Yes, so don't tell my dad. But
he might be banging on the door.
I know. Baby's gonna start screaming.
Yeah.
But ultimately, for me, that's the ultimate goal, right? If you can have, or even if someone were to take our product for a certain period of time and then maybe think like, hey, you know what? I now feel that I'm in a place where I can go for some cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm ready to implement those strategies that before just felt it was too much work to implement, right? Therapy is work. It's tough. And so, I would absolutely love it if our product becomes something that's transient. It's something that someone takes and it gives them that little push that they need to make other changes in their life, whether it's diet, whether it's starting to exercise, whether it is saying, hey, you know what, I need to go to my doctor and I need medication for this because this product has given me a little glimpse that I don't need to live that way, but I do need something more. Mm-hmm. Whether it's giving them that push to say, you know what, my therapist has been on my case to do these behavioral training, but I just haven't been able to do it. If our product can give them that push, and then we are able to wean them off it, because over time we tailor, right? And as people are getting better, we are decreasing their dose, right?
Their questionnaire, the doses would change as they're shifting.
Exactly.
So that continues to be that questionnaire, that dosage, that training and making them each unique.
Yes.
Really plays a balance. So it's not like a one-time shot. It will shift. It will change.
Yeah. So it's unique to the individual and it's unique to them over time, right? And the other thing that's really interesting is if we have a client and they're doing really well, but then they have a major event, right? Life events happen. And if they have a major stressor and we see that on their questionnaire, or they even contact us and say, hey, this just happened. What can you guys do? We're able to tailor their formula to provide a little bit more support during that time.
Can men take this?
So right now, the program is designed primarily for women. We do have a male option for it, but we're not actively in the market with it. It is something that's available. So if someone knew someone, like right now, we actually end up with a lot of women referring their husbands or their brothers, that kind of thing.
Right.
So we do accept them. They're streamed into a different program.
They're not answering the menstrual cycle questions.
No,
would they
exactly.
But would they be answering like erectile issues?
Yes.
Or libido? Like would
Yes.
they be answering a different one? So have you created a questionnaire yet for that?
We do have one.
Audience.
Yes. It is in its, I guess, beta version at this point, because we are trying to figure out the best way to get honest answers to the male hormonal questions. You can always ask a question, but you got to make sure the answers are reliable, right? So yes, we have it. It's not something that we are really advertising or pushing, but we do have people referred to us and we do accept them.
when you have the woman who's feeling much better and she's looking around her household going, hey honey,
yes,
maybe now that I've noticed what's going on with me,
yeah,
it's really interesting to see. When you look at the nutritional aspect, because you've mentioned nutrition in this quite often, what would you suggest to people right now who are wavering? They're tinkering. They're going, okay, do I want to try this? Do I not? Like, where would you say is the best place to start? What would be baby steps?
As far as trying our product?
Trying the product, or thinking that they might want to take the product, but like, okay, let's try all of these other checklist items, right?
Yeah. So from a nutritional perspective, protein. Try and get yourself some more protein. And the reason that that's important is protein is broken down into what are called amino acids. And amino acids are actually the base of your neurotransmitters. And so if you're someone that tends to have a very carbohydrate-rich diet, you might not be getting enough protein, or you might not be getting enough protein for you in your circumstance. And so that's one pretty easy change to make just from a dietary perspective.
And when you talk about the amino acids, what are they doing?
So the amino acids are actually, your body takes them and turns them into neurotransmitters. And so if you don't have enough of them, you might not be able to turn them into the neurotransmitters that you need. So is it to say if you eat more protein, you're going to make more neurotransmitters? No, definitely not. But if that is the case in your situation, you may as well try eating some more protein and it might help you, right? Another really big one is omega-3 fish oil. There's been a lot of research on the benefits that can have from a mental health perspective. And then the other big one is magnesium. I think magnesium's gained a fair, I always say everyone knows about magnesium. Not everyone knows about magnesium, but it's really great for sleep, relaxation, that type of thing. So I would say those are some baby steps you can take. The other one, again, it sounds so cliche, diet and exercise, but honestly, diet and exercise.
And by diet, it's not diet that you're restricting calories. It's diet in a healthy, eating healthier choices.
Yes,
having
exactly.
Choices.
And I mean, even from the perspective that yes, protein is one thing because have enough protein, you can make lots of neurotransmitters, but also the fact that if you're eating lots of leafy greens, if you're eating a protein-rich diet, if you're staying away from artificial flavors and sweeteners and refined sugars, that can start to actually shift your gut microbiome as well. And if you have a positive shift that way, that could potentially for you translate into a positive shift in mental wellness as well. But again, I always say you have to find what works for you. We're all individuals. We're all unique. We all experience anxiety differently. I mean, my generalized anxiety looks very different than someone else's, right? And so a lot of it is figuring out what works for you from a dietary perspective.
Okay, so I have listeners right now, and I'm gonna go try this questionnaire, and I'm gonna get this protein, and I'm gonna try it. How long do you usually say until someone feels
an effect?
Yes.
Well, it depends if it's you or if it's someone telling you.
As it was in your case.
Yes, exactly,
right.
Exactly. And a lot of it depends too, again, on the questionnaire. So a quick example, if someone tends to have a lot of dietary issues, a lot of digestive issues with some tweaking with some ingredients can actually be fixed fairly quickly. And so those people will often start to feel better just because they're not feeling bleh all the time, right? They're not having as much bloating. They're not stressing about diarrhea and where's the next bathroom, that kind of thing. And so right off the bat, if that's a problem, then usually within 2 to 3 weeks, you can start to feel better. If it's something that tends to be a little bit more difficult than that, then it can take a couple of months. In my case, it was other people that started noticing the difference around me. It wasn't me. And for me, often I don't notice the difference when I'm taking it. It's when I stop taking it. And then all of a sudden I start having these anxious thoughts creep up again, and then it takes me a little while to realize like, okay, this isn't logical. This is, my brain has started going again. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I've forgotten to take my shake.
I find it fascinating, the science behind it. Now,
Yeah.
Amy is pretty much the big passion project, the big baby
Yes.
of Staterra.
Yes.
And so if people are going onto that website, what will they find in terms of, because there's a lot of research and development that's going on there.
Yes, there's a lot of research and development that's going on. Our website right now, we do have a separate Amy website. You can access the questionnaire on it. On the homepage, if you scroll down, there's a Get Started button. That's where you fill out the questionnaire, and then that goes to one of our practitioners for review. The website itself, we do have a little bit of information as far as the self-reported evidence that we have right now. So where we've seen improvement, it touches on the fact that we are in the process of starting this controlled research project. So there's a little bit of information on that. There's some more information on the ingredients that we use. We have a list of them because not everybody gets every ingredient.
Right, because it's individualized.
Yeah, exactly. But we do have a list of the ingredients that we use. And then if there's ever any questions about anything, we all love to answer people's questions. Like I said, I'm a super nerd. So we're available to answer any questions that people have.
There's a lot of people behind it. I know your dad kind of takes on this entrepreneurial, he's the business mindset.
Yeah.
You've got the science. I know that Kathy Smart has joined in also, and
Yes.
her nutrition background, especially, when you're talking about the gut, right?
Oh,
with her
yeah.
gluten-free and understanding how what a huge impact. And she's one of the leaders, world leaders in kind of in gluten-free aspect of cooking and foods.
Yeah, so it's really great that she's come on to work with us. So we're really, really excited about that. And she's just a lovely person.
There's a lot of energy there.
Oh, yeah. She's just great to have around in general. Yeah. And very caring with the clients, that type of thing.
And then the other researchers that are on hand?
Yeah, so our head of research who does a lot of our, I guess, the tough work as far as forging the collaborations and overseeing the studies, that's Dr. Delphi Dougal-Tessier. And she has her undergraduate degree is in psychology and then her PhD in neuroscience. So we actually met in graduate school. And so she's the one that runs all the research and comes up with the protocols and deals with ethics. And
Don't you love the compliance aspect too eventually? There's another one that deals with compliance.
Yes,
Would you be interested to go back now to Ottawa U and to talk to the students? Because, you graduated from this program, right?
Yeah.
And to go back and say you have no idea the possibility of what you're studying.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Another thing that's really opened my eyes, just from a research perspective, is the possibilities with industry and academic collaboration, because there are so many. And so I would love to go back. I've actually gone back and given career day talks in the past just to tell these young researchers, like, there are options outside academia. And if you have an idea, a research idea, don't give up on it, especially if it's something that academia isn't open to initially, right? Because academia can be dogmatic. There's things that you do and there's things that you don't do. But keep pushing. Just keep pushing, because that's what pushes research forward. That's what pushes innovation forward.
And you felt that. There was a breakthrough for you. You start to create something with one aspect of science, and then you realized, it was an accident, not necessarily accidental, but where the research leads.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I do come from more of that academic background. And so I always joke, like, how did I end up in like natural health products? Because I hate natural health products, but here we are. But
the science was right.
Yeah, exactly. And we are, with doing the controlled study, we want that science backing behind it, because that's how it's going to actually make a larger difference, right? Is if you have that strong science, then people are going to start to take notice.
Well, definitely took notice. I loved when I was approached by you guys and be like, hey, we know that you're kind of into this, and you talk about this often, and I thought it was a really interesting topic, and just giving people, as you mentioned, options. If they're trying certain things and they're not quite working, or they're feeling off, there are different things that they can try, and especially too with that natural holistic background behind it, that you're not messing yourself up with these meds, or that you're trying to get off. So I thought it was really interesting. And so the concept is Amy, A-M-I-E. A-M-I-E. So you can find, so Amy has its own website.
Yes, it's doyouknowamy.com.
And then if not, go to Staterra, which is the big company that you guys have, and you can find the links and everything there. thank you so much. I think this was awesome. I'm doing this because I can hear your baby. And I'm like, okay, we've given her about an hour. The baby's going, I need my mom.
Yeah.
So your dad and co-founder with you
Yes.
is kind of, I think, pacing outside. So
Yeah.
really appreciate you taking the time and really best of luck with this.
Yeah.
I hope you're able to get that collaboration going with institutions and science and research so that there is all of that available. But hopefully you got the information that you needed out of the podcast. And please, as I mentioned, if you are listening, let people know about it. Tell them about it. Share the information. Like it. Subscribe. Always helps to be able to see this podcast grow. It was really funny. I had the one on the relationship that was on, and I had like a whole bunch of Insta stories of people that were tagging their friends who were in really troublesome relationships going, you got to listen to this podcast. So that is the best thing. And if you have friends, if you know of someone who's suffering, pass this on, like send them the link, and then hopefully they're able to hear some of the information and make those decisions themselves.
Another big piece too, if you know someone that's struggling, is just getting the conversation started with them. Again, we just want to be an option, but we may not be the best option for everyone. So,
but you're there, you're getting the dialogue started.
Exactly,
I love it. Thank you so much, Alysen. I really appreciate it. And that's a wrap on Living Your Life with Lianne Laing.